Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome, I'm JayDreamerZ, and today I'm going to be doing a video basically responding to the many videos out there that are titled something sort of like, these are the questions flat earthers are afraid to answer, or scared to answer, or can't answer, etc., and so on and so forth. So, we're going to be addressing these. This video is not in order to, go back and forth or whatnot. I've been researching flat earth for almost 2 years now. And about halfway along the way, I realized that, I don't need to put out videos with the sole purpose of trying to disprove or debate or anything like that. When I put out flat earth videos, since that point, it's really been with the purpose of sharing the things that I've learned on my path of discovery. So that's really what this video is going to be about too. If there's going to be people in the chat that are for or against, back and forth, I'm only going to ask, try to be respectful with one another. Moderators, feel free to moderate and, do what you feel is appropriate in the chat. I'm not going to be looking at the chat for the most part. I'm going to be answering the unanswerable questions. And at the end, I'll be asking some questions of my own. So hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much. For the most part, just so you know, if you'd like to reference, what questions I'm answering, it's basically from a video made by Holy Kool-Aid, which is a pretty cool channel. I don't have anything against them or anything. And the theme of that channel seems to be like, portraying the religious people and religion versus science and things of that nature. But there is a video on there that says something like 20 questions that flat earthers are afraid to answer or can't answer, something of that nature. Hopefully some of those people watch this video so that they can get some of their answers, or at the very least a response to some of their questions. I'm not going to say that I do have all of the answers, but I will do my best to answer some of the questions that you've asked. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, I'm not going to bring up the video just because, there's a gray area when it comes to copyright and things of that nature. But I'm going to make sure that you guys know what the questions are. Pamela, wow, thank you. That's awesome. I'm going to be giving a huge thanks to all of my patrons and the super chat users at the end of the video as well. But thank you. I appreciate you, Pamela. Okay, so let's get to the first question here. Let's jump right in. All right, so I made sure to write all of these down, and I took my time in responding to all of them. So the first I'm going to be reading a lot of this. As a flat earth researcher. Actually, one moment. Let me go ahead and fix something on the video here. Sorry about that. I'm just going to fix one thing. Will just be a quick second. Feel free to grab some Kool-Aid or something while you wait. Normally I have all of this stuff ready to go. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into making YouTube videos, including a lot of the time that it takes for preparation, research, getting the video ready, getting everything set up on the technical end. On my side, now some YouTube channels you might watch and think, oh, they're just professional, it's like a TV show. There's a lot of work going into it if you don't have a crew and a studio and stuff. It takes me 20 minutes just to get the lighting right sometimes so my face doesn't pixelate with the green screen. And I'll be done here in just about 1 minute. Or less. This is a topic that I've been very passionate about. Not passionate in like forcing other people to see my point of view, but very passionate in my own research of it. Alright, I'll just be 1 second. We'll be right back in about 30 seconds or less. Okay. I think that may have done the trick. What I'm doing, just so you know, on your end, is I'm just making sure that when there's a donation or a subscriber joins us, that the sound isn't so loud that it interferes with what we're doing here. Somebody gave me a tip on that. Okay, now we're back. Okay, see, that's the lighting thing I was telling you about. You get too close and people start making videos about you being a lizard. Okay, so let's get right to the first question here. Sorry about the delay. All right, now, as a flat earth researcher, I am happy to reply to all of these questions on behalf of myself. Not all flat earthers, of course. So, let me make that very clear, because when I go over these YouTube videos, which usually they're debunking videos or videos that are designed to make flat earthers look like complete lunatics with little to no education or morality, which is really too bad, but that's not something I'm going to be talking about once more right now. I just want to make it very clear. These are replies from me, not on behalf of everybody. I am certainly not in the Flat Earth Society or anything. I'm just an individual person on my own path doing my own research into these topics, into Flat Earth research, and so many other topics as well. Now, that also being said, my supporters and subscribers and viewers, they don't all share my view, my worldview, my literal worldview on the shape of the planet. But they appreciate the manner, for the most part, in which I do share my research. With that being said, question number 1. What exact kind of curvature would I expect to see? So basically they're asking, you know, if you're on the Earth, what kind of curvature would you expect to see? And a lot of times this question is prefaced basically saying the Earth is so big that you really can't see any curvature whatsoever. You know, it just looks like a horizontal line on the horizon, but it's just because it's so big. So what kind of curvature would I expect to see? My answer is, standing on the ground, I wouldn't expect to be able to discern any curvature at all. However, the higher up one travels from that point, I would expect to see a definitive curve as the horizon becomes lower and the shape of the Earth is revealed, right? That just makes sense. The higher up you go, the more of the Earth you're going to see, and thus the curvature itself will eventually be revealed. Based on many eyewitness accounts, I would expect to discern some curvature from an airplane, the top of Mount Everest, and from a high-altitude balloon, all of which people have said that they have themselves seen the curve without a fisheye lens being used. So what do I mean by that? I mean, I've seen so many videos, talked to people in person. When asked where do they expect to see the curvature, they've told me, oh, I've seen it. I've seen the curvature from the ground when I'm at the beach. I've seen the curvature from an airplane. I've seen the curvature from a high mountain and whatnot. So that's what globular Earth believers, proponents, are telling me, right? Now, I have not seen any of that curvature, nor would I expect to until you get high enough that you can see that the Earth starts to reveal its own shape, if that were the shape. Let's see. And then the reality is I have never seen curvature from any of these places, neither in pictures, in person, or in videos. The statement, nobody has ever claimed to see what I would expect to see on a globular Earth, is incorrect. So that's a quote directly from this video, right? They say that nobody, let's see, where is it? Nobody has ever claimed to see what flat earthers would expect to see on a globular Earth. That's not true. Many people have claimed to see that. Many people have claimed to see the curvature with their own eyes on an airplane or, wherever they may be. So that's not a correct statement. That's an absolute statement. Now, an absolute statement is all-encompassing. which is difficult to adhere to, because when you make an absolute all-encompassing statement, any evidence brought forth toward the contrary, no matter how small, automatically disproves the statement from being an absolute statement. I hope that makes sense. A very simple Google search, along with personal experience with others, reveals that people claim to be able to see the curvature of the globe from the beach, mountains, and airplanes. If you make an absolute statement like this, be sure to be correct, as any evidence to the contrary automatically disproves the statement, as you can see. Question number 2. All right, now, before we get into question number 2, I just wanted to point something out about these questions, okay? They're very, I don't know how to describe it, but you know, sometimes it's refreshing when somebody wants to ask something, when it's a question, to get right to the point. You know, a short, simple, to the point question. Many of these questions, it says 20 questions, you know, that flat earthers can't answer. Many of these questions are compound, complex questions, as we'll get into. But basically, they're not just asking one question in many of these videos. They're asking a plethora of questions, a multitude of questions. They're saying, if this, how do you explain this? Also, in addition to that, what about this? It's the same tactic that reporters use when they, you know, when they're selected by the president. Yes, you over there. Yes, Mr. President. How do you feel about taxes? And in addition to that tax question, I was also wondering this other thing and this other thing. So it's really way more than 20 questions, but we're going to go over all of them right now. And question number 2 says, if I can get to it. Question number 2 says, can I provide a full-scale working model of the flat earth with accurate predictions and measurements that follow through on that scale? So the answer is no. I cannot make a replica of the earth that is as big as the earth itself. That would be a full-scale model. If you meant a model that is to scale, the answer is also no. The current maps or globes are not to scale and have many discrepancies. For more information, you can see the true size of Africa versus the United States. Many flat earthers have made models that do accurately predict and give alternative approximate sizes for both the sun and the moon. I personally have not yet, as of this post. The comment, and then he adds on this little comment at the end of the question. And no, I don't mean the UN map, right? So I'm responding to that particular comment. The comment, and no, I don't mean the UN map, doesn't make sense because it's not a map, it's a flag. Also, I've never claimed that the symbol on the UN flag to be a scale model of the Earth, though it clearly represents a plane of existence, not a sphere. Okay, so that's 2 questions down. Question number 3. Why is it that all other astronomical bodies, like other planets, moons, the sun, and other stars, are spherical, and the laws of gravity apply to them, but not to the Earth? The answer is not all astronomical bodies are spherical. Even within the arena of mainstream science, for example, asteroids or the moons of Mars, for example. I will caution a second time about making an absolute statement like this, as any evidence to the contrary easily dismisses the entire statement. The reality is we are taught that the objects that we see from Earth are spheres, but that's not the case. Some, such as the moon and what we call the sun, or what I call the skylight, are circular, yes, which means that which doesn't mean that they are spheres. And it also doesn't discount the possibility of them being spheres, just to be fair, right? Such as the case with a coin or a clock, they are all circles and not spheres. Newton's theory, law, of gravitation has been in question since its inception. For more information, see Emmanual Velikovsky's paper, cosmos without gravitation. For those of you who don't know who Emmanual Velikovsky is, an unsung hero in my book. He was a creative thinker that had a lot of alternative theories and ideas about the cosmos and ancient history. But he was also a contemporary of people like Freud and Einstein, and, you know, he rubbed elbows with all those types of guys. But he wrote an entire dissertation basically saying, I don't see any good reason to adhere to or believe in, you know, this thing called gravity. And he wrote a whole paper on it, giving plenty of examples why gravity is so much easier to replace with other factors. So that's the answer to that question. Question number 4. If the Earth is constantly moving upward, where is the infinite source of energy propelling it? Okay, this is one of my favorite questions to answer, although nobody's ever asked me this in real life, not in person. I don't know why. My guess is that people, when they do these flat earth debunking videos, that they just do a quick little Google search and they go according to the first things that pop up on Google. Now, Google is very biased in what it presents to you as far as the search results go. If you type in stuff about the flat earth and you're trying to get a serious inquiry, you are likely to come across the Flat Earth Society's homepage. Now, the Flat Earth Society is just a small group of flat earthers that have a particular set of beliefs. They by no means represent all of the flat earthers. I have not ever... Actually, hold on. Let me just go ahead and read the answer to the question first. The answer is... Let me read the question again. If the Earth is constantly moving upward, where is the infinite source of energy propelling it? The Earth is not moving upward. It isn't moving at all. With the exception of earthquakes and things like that, I have never thought this about the Earth, nor has any flat Earth researcher that I have ever met. The only ones who hold to this theory are those who are members of the Flat Earth Society, which is a small organization in comparison to the flat earther population at large. My question to you is, where did you even hear a flat earther say that the Earth is flying upwards? That's just a side note. I'm going to actually ask a whole bunch of my own questions here when I'm done answering these ones. Question number 5. Why do time lapses of stars rotate in different directions in the northern and southern hemispheres? The answer is, I don't know. I haven't studied the star trails as much as other people have. That's just me being honest. I've seen others pose some interesting theories about a glass dome magnifier over a drawing or a video of star trails. And I believe that this was a great question and worth looking into for all flat earthers. Question number 6. How come anybody... Now, listen to how this question is phrased. Listen to how it's structured. How come anybody with a high-powered laser can bounce light off of the retroreflectors that the astronauts left on the moon? Now, before I answer that question, let me give you a little idea as to what it's talking about. Supposedly, when the astronauts flew to the moon... I'm sorry, it's so funny of a concept. When the astronauts flew to the moon, they had the foreknowledge to know that people were going to disbelieve them, and so they left these reflecting objects on the moon. And it's probably not... I'm sure if we look it up, they're not going to say, oh, it's for proving that we went there. You know, it's probably, they'll say it's for scientific experiments or whatnot. But they say they left these reflectors on the moon so that people can shoot light or lasers at them and bounce it back, right? Let me go ahead and answer the question. How come anybody with a high-powered laser can bounce light off of the retroreflectors that the astronauts left on the moon? The answer is they cannot. They can't. That can't be done. Studies have shown that people have reflected, allegedly, lasers off of the moon without the aid of a retroreflector. And this is due to the silicates that are supposedly on the lunar surface. Saying that anybody with a high-powered laser implies that anybody can just purchase one or use one of these expensive lasers. The other thing is the utter impossibility of hitting such a small object. I think that the retroreflectors were said to be half of a meter or so. Like, they're like this big, okay? They're not very large at all. So think of the probability or even the possibility of hitting one of those, you know, let's say, I don't know, let's call it 3 feet wide, right? You're going to hit an object that's 3 feet wide, 240,000 miles away on a spinning, wobbling, tilting planet. And that object is on its own heavenly body that's doing its own orbiting and whatnot. It does not sound very probable to me. And that's coming from somebody who is, or was, you know, when I was in the Marine Corps, we had to go through like rifle training, so we had to learn how to shoot objects, shoot targets, and there's a lot of things involved in that. It's very difficult to do, so I can't even imagine how much more difficult, near impossible it would be to hit an object that is like 3 feet wide, 240,000 miles away, right? Let's see. The other thing is the utter impossibility of hitting such a small object. From about 240,000 miles away, tracking the moving object vertically and horizontally, even if a laser could reach that far, the moon is moving at about 1 kilometer per second, this is what they say, and the light would take at least 1 second to get to the moon, and another second to reflect back, arriving at least 2 kilometers away from the observation point. This question seems oversimplified and perhaps stems from a Mythbuster episode, I'm guessing. So anyhow, that's my question, but that's my answer. You can't do it. It can't be done, okay? It's an astronomical improbability. Question number 7. If climate change, right? Climate change. If climate change melts the Antarctic ice wall, will all the water fall off of the edge? Or insert a witty joke about Game of Thrones, right? He starts talking about Game of Thrones. He's trying to joke. He's kind of turning the question into a joke as if it's laughable, but I'm going to turn it into something serious here in just a moment. So the question is, where does the water go if the ice wall melts, right? Does it spill off of the edge of flat Earth? The answer is there is no climate change in the way that we have been taught to believe, global warming. The reason the sea level is rising in various places is due to the dredging of the ocean sand for consumers. Thus, the land, or the beach, replaces the sand where the sand was dredged out offshore by many different countries. If you don't know more about that, I highly recommend checking out, like sand conspiracy. I don't know what to search, but sand dredging. Maybe you could look up sand dredging. Basically, if you have land, wait, let me see the video here. Okay, if you have some land and the water meets the land, right, and you've got the beach where the two meet, whenever they go out to sea and they dredge all the sand up, then naturally the land up here gets lower and lower as the sand fills up the hole. The land fills the hole that we made, and so in essence, we're the ones who are causing the water levels to rise. It's a little off topic, but it's worth looking into. Okay. Man, I'm going to have to highlight this. This is so much stuff to read. Oh, here we go. Okay, so climate change, etc., etc. Okay, so this is my answer, part of my answer. Weather modification has not been sci-fi, but reality for quite some time. But even if the ice wall melted, the water would not fall off of the edge because there is no edge. The Earth may be an infinite plane of existence, kind of like your space, your space that you have that has everything inside of it. When you think of space, you think of it going on forever and ever and ever. That's also one of the theories about flat Earth, that it may just continue on, going on and on and on, that there may not be an edge. We've been conditioned to imagine an edge because we imagine it being in what they call space. So, if you're thinking of space, you're going to think of an edge to the flat Earth. There may be a dome holding everything in, which is another theory, or it simply may be the end of the coding for this reality, which is also known as simulation theory, in which case the water would disintegrate into nothing. Even though you were joking about the ice giants invading our world, that is exactly what is predicted in Norse mythology and history. That there are other planes of existence where the frost giants live. Just because something on TV is depicted as fiction does not mean that it lacks any truth. I hope that answer was easy to understand. Number 8. How do flat earthers explain the moon being upside down in the other hemispheres? I think this is a good question to ask. I wondered that myself for quite some time. My answer is, I'll speak for myself and not all flat earthers. Draw the number 6 on your ceiling, then stand at one end of the flat floor. Have another person stand opposite you on the other end of the room, and they will see the number 9. This is the simple explanation. The moon is so far away that the degree of visual shift, the moon turning upside down, would be something like less than 2 degrees, not 180 degrees, on a sphere 240,000 miles away or so. But this works quite well using a nearby moon over the plane of the Earth. Now, before we get into question 9, one more thing I just wanted to point out is I tried really hard in my answers, in my responses. I tried to get to the point as I would want others to get to the point. I tried to make my answers very easy to understand, which in the scientific community is not something that is afforded to most of us, I'm going to ask my own question to globe Earth proponents at the end, and I'm sure in the comments section we're going to have paragraph upon paragraph answering one question involving high degrees of calculus and mathematics and other interesting phenomenon in order to explain it and make it make sense. You know what I like, and you know what your average person likes to hear? Simple stuff that just makes sense. Something that you hear and you're like, oh, I could see that. Not things where you have to carry the one and figure it all out and use a chalkboard and you know what I mean? I'm not saying that you can't do it that way. I'm just saying, why not do it the easier way? Ask a simple question, get a simple answer. Now, I'm not discrediting getting into things. I like the details of stuff myself, but I am saying sometimes I think about your common person, your average person, and what it is that they can process and what it is that takes a lot more time than they may be interested in devoting to researching it, So sometimes people need a simple, straightforward answer. That's really what it boils down to. And sometimes people would like more than that. If they request more than that, let's get into more than that. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so next question. Number 9. Out of all of the... Okay, I'm sort of... Some of these questions I'm going to rephrase because, like I said, they're asked in a very roundabout, kind of political, lawyerish, legalese sort of way. The question is, out of all of the employees associated with space travel, are all of them in on it? If not, how are those at the top able to fool every single one of their employees? My answer is no, they are not all in on it. I doubt that the lady serving mac and cheese in the NASA cafeteria is privy to above top secret information. It's quite simple to fool a large amount of people who truly believe that they are working for a greater cause. Those employees who make the supposed space equipment, if there is such a job, need not be privy to first-hand knowledge or experience with what happens after they play their part. People who work for the world's best magicians, they help to create the effects, but they are sworn to secrecy, or they still don't know how the trick works. For example, I made rockets in the Marine Corps. That does not mean that I know where those rockets and missiles went after I made them, what they were used for, or if they were used at all. As a matter of fact, you'd be surprised at the surplus of ordnance our military has, stored away for decades, then dismantled only to be brought to me for me to rebuild it. That's just some personal experience. I hear people saying things like, how many of them can keep a secret? Right? This blows people's mind. This is a huge hurdle to get over, you know, like, how can so many people keep a secret that big, you know? That's just insane. Well, you know, the perspective that that's coming from is an individual's perspective, right? The question is, can you keep a secret? Now, if you can't keep a secret, if you find it very difficult, more often than not, you're going to project that upon other people. I can keep secrets. I know lots of people that can keep secrets. As a matter of fact, I believe the next part of my response, yeah, I find it interesting. I find it to be an interesting statement, which speaks volumes about the individual who's making the statement. Let me make something very clear. It's very easy to keep a secret, as I'm sure other serious-minded individuals would agree. It's not a difficult task, so let's stop pretending like it's so hard to keep a secret. There is actually a job where you get paid to keep secrets. It's called a spy, you know? You can get tortured. You can have really bad things happen to you if you don't keep your secrets. So telling me, you know, that I don't think it's possible because I don't think that many people can keep a secret isn't really convincing evidence for me to lean towards a globular Earth model. Okay, people can keep secrets. People have kept secrets. People are sworn to secrecy in all avenues of different, you know, jobs and organizations and societies around the world, okay? So don't be fooled into thinking that you know, because you can't keep a secret, that means others won't keep their secrets as well. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Question number 10. If the sun is rotating above the earth in a circle, how do I explain both solar and lunar eclipses? Also, compound question, why isn't the entire earth in a shadow when the sun goes under the flat earth? Okay, this should be fun, right? Hold on, let me just scroll down here. Okay, so let's look at question number 1. If the sun is rotating above the earth in a circle, how do I explain both solar and lunar eclipses? The answer is, I don't know for certain how eclipses work. There are a few alternatives that would work just as well or better than the globular model. I like the theory that there is a seemingly invisible body in the sky that moves in front of both the sun and the moon at regular intervals, causing the eclipse. This would also explain the impossible situation of the many eclipses that have occurred while both the sun and the moon are seen together in the sky. I have not seen or read any logical reasoning for this on the globular model. The second question's answer is simple. The sun does not go under the flat earth, but rotates above it. Also, at the end of this particular question, the guy asking the question, like so many other people, which is really sad because it's a marker for the maturity level of the people in the world today. But when he's done, he kind of goes like, oh, you know, makes some like retard face, you know. So I added this. Also, making the retard mannerism only speaks to your maturity level, not the intelligence of others. Insults expose the weakness of the one casting them. So that's something to think about. You know, no matter what side of the debate you're on, no matter what side of the argument or what your beliefs are, it's always going to carry well with whatever you're proposing if you carry yourself well. If you carry yourself in a manner that's respectable and sincere, right? Not just hurling insults and things like that. Okay, I'm trying to find the next one here. Question 11. Have I ever taken a picture of the night sky only to realize that my camera's sensor just isn't sensitive enough to capture the dim balls of light without increasing exposure time? No. That's the answer. No, honestly, I don't take many pictures of the night sky, but one reason we cannot see stars during the day is due to the blue light and the atmosphere preventing us from seeing them. It has a lot to do with the atmosphere itself. And because of that, and knowing there is no atmosphere in space, preventing us from seeing the stars, right? There's no atmosphere in space, it's a vacuum. So there should be nothing in the way preventing us from seeing the sun. The sun's light shouldn't be so brilliantly reflected off of the atmosphere everywhere and spread out that it completely hides everything that's in space, you know? So if anything, you should see all of the stars in space. Also, the astronauts themselves don't even agree on whether or not they saw stars while they were in space. Wouldn't you think this would be a fundamental piece, a key memory if you're an astronaut? Astronaut literally means like, it's got the word star in it. Astro means star. Aster comes from Ishtar, or the Queen of Heaven. But it literally means star. So don't you think you would remember if you saw stars while you were in the place where the stars are? You know, the astronauts don't agree. There's many videos that have been put out showing various astronauts saying, yeah, there's lots of stars. I can see them every time I go. And other ones saying, I don't remember if there were any stars. And some saying, nope, no, there weren't any stars. You know, I don't remember seeing any stars. It's just a black void. So, you know, there's that. Number 12. Number 12, I didn't write the question down, but it's almost the exact same as question number 4. They're asking about like the Earth and the Earth like moving upwards, right? So it's basically the same answer. The Earth is not moving at all. It's not spinning, it's not wobbling, it's not rotating, it's not orbiting, you know, at least according to my research, according to flat Earth research in general. The Earth is not moving whatsoever. So basically, question number 12, I have to refer you to question number 4's answer. I nor any other flat earther I've spoken with thinks that the Earth is moving at all, especially not upward in order to simulate gravity. That's a ridiculous concept to myself and to many other flat earthers that I have interacted with. Excuse me. So if you're wondering what that's about, basically in the Flat Earth Society, in order to compensate for the theory of gravity, they say that we are stuck to the Earth because the Earth is constantly just going upwards ever faster. I don't believe that, and neither does anybody else that I've ever talked to about Flat Earth theory. Question 13. Why do stars and constellations we see in the southern hemisphere differ from those that we see in the northern hemisphere? Because magic. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say that because that's what they always say, right? Because magic, oh, like we're all retarded and stupid or something, you know? No, it's not because of magic. Although to some people it probably is because of magic. No, I'm just kidding. The stars will be different in different locations the further away one goes from the starting point. So, for example, the North Pole observers can see only the northern portion of Orion, while the South Pole observers can see the southern portion of Orion. It depends upon the location of the observer in relation to the path of the stars. So basically, like, the stars are right there above us, and if I move, then the stars are going to appear to move as well, right? But it's really just my location that's changing, and therefore my perspective changes. Question 14. Why would you... Oh, I like this question. Okay, here's a really fun one to get into. Let me just check to make sure video is okay. Sometimes the light goes crazy, and as you can see over here, that's the little edge of my table. It just glitches out. All right, so let's keep on moving forward. Oh, Jessica, thank you. Question 14. Why would you rely on something as fallible and subjective as visual perception and reject more reliable and precise forms of measurement to make your argument. I'm going to read the question again one more time, a bit quicker. Why would I rely on something as fallible and subjective as visual perception and reject more reliable and precise forms of measurement to make your argument? This is my answer, this is my reply. This is known as a complex question fallacy, or otherwise known as a loaded question. This is absolutely a loaded question. While it may be true that vision can be fallible, that certainly does not mean that we dismiss our vision or any of our other senses. If you're walking towards a bonfire and you see huge flames and you smell burning wood and you feel the heat on your skin, there's no need to form a question, make a hypothesis, perform an experiment, analyze data, and then come to the conclusion that the fire is too hot to walk through. To say that flat earth researchers reject more reliable and precise forms of measurement is simply incorrect. Many of us, including myself, use many more tools than simply our sight. We use the scientific method, math, topography, geology, experiments, thermometers, historical records, and much more while conducting our research. So to answer your question, we don't just use our eyes, but we include our vision and what can be observed, as well as many tools that we have at our disposal. This is much more than I can say for the majority of the population whose belief in the globular Earth model is mostly based on having seen images of the Earth from space, or watched the moon landing on TV, or see the shadow during an eclipse. Let's be fair. Right? Question number 15. The US and Soviet Union were enemies during the Cold War. If one side claims that the Earth was round and they were wrong, why wouldn't the other side expose them? This is the easiest question to answer by far. The answer is simple. The US and the Soviet Union were never really enemies. They're not. We're not enemies with Russia. We're not enemies with the Soviet Union. We never were. We never have been. It's classic divide and conquer. They are two sides of the same coin. It's a lot like in 1984, where Orwell talks about the perpetual wars. You know, the governments create their own wars. They make up, like, they trick people into thinking that there are wars going on so that the people will rally to support the mission, the plan, the conspiracy, if you will, of the people who are in charge. It's all fakery. It's all not real. Now, keep in mind, I was in the military. I did go overseas. It does not mean that, you know, there aren't people shooting at one another. There aren't people fighting one another. But they don't know why they're shooting each other. They don't know why they're fighting one another. You know, it's mostly because they have seen the propaganda. We're at war and those are the bad guys, so go shoot them. And they have families. They would like to have a future. They would like to have a life, etc. I know I did. I didn't even know what I was doing, you know. I was just following orders like you're supposed to do. Don't ask questions. Not in school, not in the military, not anywhere. Never ask questions. They're always going to tell you, we've got an open door policy. No question's a bad question. But they're liars. They don't mean that. You can tell because give it a try and see what happens. All right, where was I? Oh, question 16. Okay. If the sun and moon are just getting further away, then why don't they shrink just before night or become gigantic while just overhead? My answer is sometimes you actually can see the sun get smaller as it goes away. There are plenty of videos online that capture this. If we could remove the horizon, then we would totally see the sun and moon get smaller and smaller and smaller as they traveled further away. But the vanishing point seems to prevent this. While directly overhead, we see a better representation of their actual sizes, which are very nearly the same size. According to my research thus far, it seems that the atmosphere can act much like a magnifying sheet, which makes objects bigger when they're further away, or normal size when they're directly overhead or nearby. This is a good question and lacking any malice or condescending undertones, but seemed like a very genuine question, which is always appreciated by and respected by people like myself. You know, I really appreciate it. I love it whenever I hear people asking questions, even if they don't believe it, even if they don't support it. You know, they might have a genuine question like, how do you explain this, you know? Those are the questions that I enjoy hearing, that I respect, that I am happy to engage in. It's the questions where people go, wait, let me make sure I have to get the face, right? It's the question where people are like, if the earth, this and that, then how do you explain this? Because it's clearly, obviously not true. You know, like with all the disgust and condescending and patronizing and all that type of stuff, that's no way to have a discussion. That's no way to have a debate. I've talked about this many times here on my channel, right? Whatever happened to philosophy? You know, it's okay to be a philosopher. It's okay to have opposing viewpoints. It's not okay to go and put people down. It's not okay to go ahead and say, you're an idiot, you're a flat-tard, you're a globe-tard, you're stupid, you shouldn't have children, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm just saying I respected the way that that particular individual asked and posed the question. All right, so let's see, number 17. Oh, here, this one's funny. The question starts out, most astronauts were Christians, ... So my reply, I totally interrupt the question. I'm sorry, but I have to. I say, okay, I'm going to stop this question right there, because it's already implying way too much on behalf of Christianity. Even Christians will tell you that who they call Satan is a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Sheep's clothing, meaning like, you know, the sheep of the world. They blend in, they look like everyone else, etc. So no, I'm not going to entertain the question of, you know, they're Christians, so how come they're not fighting the satanic agenda, you know? They're two sides of the same coin, okay? And that's not to put down individuals out there. I know many of you are sincere and meaningful and have the greater good in mind, okay? But that's an entirely different video. Let's see here. Where's the rest of my answer? Even Christians will tell you that who they call Satan is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Oh, okay. The next question is very similar. Why is it that the discovery, this is question 18, why is it that the discovery of the true nature of our planet and its place in the cosmos was by devout Christians if it's a satanic agenda? Right? So it's sort of like the same thing about the astronauts being Christians. Like, why are they not fighting the satanic agenda? The same question is being posed about the discoverers of our current model and cosmology, right? They were all Christians, so why is it that they're doing this if it's bad? Why are they not fighting the agenda, etc., right? So my reply to that one is, once again, this is a loaded question. To satisfy the question about Christians, let me explain what I mean, right? It's a loaded question. Why is the discovery of the true nature of our planet and its place? That wasn't a discovery. They did not discover the true nature of our planet, okay? The true nature of our planet, of our planete, our small plane of existence, was not discovered by anybody. This is common knowledge that has been known for thousands and thousands of years. And it really kind of irks me when I hear people on YouTube saying things like, we've known the world is, you know, a ball since 300 BC. We've known, you know, we've all known. They're speaking for everybody. Are you kidding me? Do you think the entire population of the Earth was swayed by a ball in space, by heliocentrism? Thousands of years ago? No, not even if, just because one person may or may not have actually come up with putting sticks in the ground and seeing where the shadows are, does not mean that that or anything else convinced the entire world. Okay, the entire world were flat earthers for the most part for a very, very long time, up until about approximately 500 years ago. So please stop telling the world that we've known. No. We as in you, small group of globular believers, okay? You've known as a very tiny splinter group of philosophy. You've known for about that long. But it's not, don't say it as if it's the entire world. Like all of the known world was on board with us, you know? That's not true. Where was I going here? Oh, so it's a loaded question. So you're starting off the question saying, you know, why is the discovery of the true nature, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's not the discovery of the true nature, so it's a loaded question. So for me to reply and give the answer to the actual portion of the question means that I acquiesce to the implied portion of the question, right? So once again, it's a loaded question. To satisfy the question about Christians, one must concede that their discovery was the true nature of the planet, etc., when our position is that it's not. It's like when I was in elementary school and kids would pick on other kids and ask them, do your parents know that you're gay? Ah, ha, 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 ha. Well, the answer, yes or no, will yield a confession. I am not going to yield a confession that's contrary to my current position. But in short, the reply to your inquiry is the exact same as the reply to the last question. Mainstream Christianity and Satanism are two sides of the same coin. All churches are at odds with all other churches, okay? And I talked about this in my last video, but I mean, just because two churches have a cross on top does not mean that they're friends with one another, okay? Okay, question 19. We're almost done, and then we're going to get to JayDreamer's questions for the globe world. And I don't say that with any, condescending at all. I truly have these questions about how certain things would work, or how others believe that certain things work. Question number 19. According to your model, is the moon a disk, an ethereal light, a projection, or a hologram? Question number 1 of the compound question, okay? So I'm not even going to read the second part of the compound question yet. Let's answer the first part of the question. So basically, what is the moon in our model, right? The answer is all of the models of the flat earth are working models. Get this in mind, okay? There is no model of the flat earth. That's just, this includes everything. This model has all the answers. This is it. We're done. No need to work on it anymore. All of these flat earth models are working models. They are in the works. They are being perfected as they go. Remember, if it's true that this information has been suppressed or hidden, then we are piecing it back together in the same way that the heliocentric model didn't just spontaneously appear with all of the answers explaining the solar system. There is no definitive model, and any good flat earth researcher would say the same, in my opinion. Based on my personal research, I've found that the moon emits its own light, which is cold light, independent from the light of the daylight or the sun. I'm not sure what shape the moon is apart from the circle that I can see with my own eyes. The same side always faces us, so it's difficult to say for certain. It could be a sphere, but there are good arguments for it being other shapes. The reply is that there is no universal model. But if you were to ask, how do I personally perceive the moon? I would tell you it's a luminary, or a light, that is in a circular shape. That's all I know about it so far based on my research so far. The second question is due to Australia being scrunched on the map, right? He's basically saying, why is Australia always scrunched on flat earth maps? So the asker wonders why all flat earthers don't agree on one model. The answer is due to the same reason that we don't agree on what the moon is. As we research, we collectively fine-tune and hopefully improve upon our conclusions as we go, as we learn. Now, because I mentioned Australia, I also wanted to put out this little public notice for myself and on behalf of other flat earthers who are like-minded. There's this rumor going around the internet that all flat earthers don't believe that Australia exists, that it's all fake and all the Australian people are actors and they're not really in Australia, okay? I don't know where that came from. I have never even heard of that. I've not heard any of my close flat earth friends talk about that concept. As of now, I don't see any reason to think Australia doesn't exist. I have a couple of acquaintances, little bird, in Australia, and I don't see any reason why that would even be true. So, be careful, okay? I'm sure people are going to do it anyway, but it's not good to take one thing that appeared on some Facebook feed or post, feed or whatever. They're feeding you a bunch of crap. It's not good to just take one thing that one flat earther says and apply it to all flat earthers across the board. Same thing as, the earth constantly shooting upward to compensate, to create the effect of gravity. I don't believe that. Neither do many of the flat earthers I've talked to, okay? I've not met one that thinks that Australia's gone and that everyone there is fake, nor have I met a flat earther that thinks that we're on a plate that's shooting upwards to keep us pressed down against the ground. Some of this stuff is just simply ridiculous, so I can understand why it would seem ridiculous. Now, I wonder, are they posing the ridiculous questions on purpose? Are they posing them on purpose, to get views, to make flat earthers look that much more discredited and ridiculous, or maybe to make themselves look a little bit smarter? I don't know. I don't know why people would say these things, but I feel that a little bit more time should be devoted on behalf of the debunkers and the people whose videos I'm talking about in particular. Like, go the extra mile, like reach out to some people, reach out to me, ask me some questions, ask other prominent flat earthers that have proven that they are currently researching and actively researching into these things, Don't just read on Facebook, Australia doesn't exist, says, Joe Flat Earth or whatever. It's ridiculous. Okay. Last question. Wait, did I answer that question? Wait, let's see. We're on the moon question. Yeah, I believe I did. Okay, yes. So last, there's a bonus question too. But question number 20. If you have a flat earther in New York and another in Los Angeles and ask about the current altitude of the sun, one of them would have to lie. How do you explain this? That's the question. My response is the only reason I like this question is because the guy asking it is a dead ringer for Tony Stark's twin brother. So if you know the video I'm talking about, it's the last question on there. This dude is like totally Tony Stark. But seriously, I don't know what the confusion is. I really don't understand why this is confusing. One of them would not have to lie. So we can set it up on a smaller scale. You've got one flat earther in the kitchen and another one in the bedroom, and you ask each of them about the current height of the light in the ceiling in the living room. Neither needs to lie, but simply give the height, not the perceived height. Not, like it looks lower from over here, or it looks higher from over here, one of us is lying. No, it's like the height is the height, How it's perceived is totally different based on the location of the observer. And, of course, there's a bonus question by Holy Kool-Aid himself, which I'm happy to answer. Holy Kool-Aid asks the question, why do objects weigh 0.35% less at the equator than at the poles? Holy Kool-Aid, my answer to you is they don't. I've never seen any experiment done where a person weighed the exact same object at both poles and the equator. I would love to see this done, then I'd be happy to inquire as to how it was done, or how it's even possible. But it's a really simple answer. Like I said, I like the simple answers. That's not possible. That doesn't happen, nor has it ever happened that I've seen, that I've encountered. If you have any proof of this, I would love to check it out. Okay, now it's my turn. Wait, let me jump in the chat. I almost never jump in the chat anymore, and that's because the chat goes by so darn quick. But I just want to jump in and say hello to everybody. There are 162 people watching. Good afternoon, evening, or whatnot to all of you, even those of you in Australia. I'm not really going to list everybody's names. But, yeah, I just want to say hi. Just so you guys know, while I don't participate actively in the chat, from time to time I will, I do read all of the chat after my video's been uploaded, because I can do that now. So I always go over all of the comments and everything, and whatnot. So, I just want to say hello. I'm glad to see so many familiar faces. Okay, so let me get to my turn. Let me ask some questions to the globular community. Now, why do I say globular, right? Because it's not spherical. Okay, the scientific mainstream community has already admitted that the Earth is not spherical, okay, in being a perfect sphere. It is a spheroid, which means they suggest that it's kind of like a ball, but they say that it is an oblate spheroid, or that it's chubbier in the bottom. Basically, this was said on public television by Neil deGrasse Tyson, that the Earth is a pear shape. That not that it's oblate in the middle. Keep this in mind, okay? These are one of the mascots that we look up to, that we take their word as gospel and scripture. You know, whatever they say, I believe them because they've made it to where they are, and I haven't made it that far, so they must be telling us the truth. Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't even say that due to centrifugal force that it's chubbier on the outside at the equator. He says that the Earth is chubbier, bigger on the southern hemisphere. Why would that be? That's an interesting thing to consider, right? Because it makes total sense on a flat Earth map, right? On any of the generic flat Earth maps that I've seen, okay? But to say that we live on some sort of a pear-shaped object kind of flies in the face of everything else that we've been taught by the same exact people. I can see why this topic frustrates so many people, especially when you get opposing ideas from the very people that are trying to indoctrinate you. Okay, my turn for questions. Question time. Now, my questions are, I tried to make them very simple, right to the point. I didn't set it up with all this, you know, even though you're wrong, I want to know what you think about this, or, you know, I don't set my questions up like that. It's just a very direct and to the point question. Number one, how is it possible for a lunar eclipse to happen when both the sun and the moon are clearly visible in the sky above? That's happened many, many times. Number two, where did the oceans come from? Now, I really wanted to add more to that question, given etc., 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 molten earth theory, right? Anyway, question number three. What is the difference between the early molten earth spinning and a ball of pizza dough that spins and flattens out? What's the difference? Just curious. Number four, how did the moon end up in orbit around the earth? You know, because I've heard flat Earth, you know, flat earthers don't agree and they all have different stories and ideas and theories on this and that. Okay, I would love to hear the answer to that question. Be sure to leave it in the comments. That way we can compare them all too. How did the moon end up in orbit around the Earth? Number five, where is the telemetry data that NASA says that they recorded for the first moon mission? Arguably one of the most important collection of documents in modern history. Where is it? Number six, how do you know for certain what the center of the Earth is comprised of? Number seven, if stars are moving in different directions at different speeds, are there any records of constellations changing over time? Number eight, how does a helium balloon move against the same gravitational pull that keeps other things on the ground? Number nine, is the buoyancy from air pressure stronger than the entire Earth's gravitational pull on a helium balloon? Okay, I want to apologize and own up to something. Those are pretty much the exact same questions, so answering either of them should suffice. I didn't realize I asked the same question redundantly. Number 10. How does a rocket slow down in space? How does it slow down, you know? I'm just curious. I have an idea of what some of the replies are going to be. But I'm looking forward to allowing an open forum for people to discuss the ideas back and forth, right? Now, some people are going to argue, some people are going to call names, some people are going to be very immature, but it does something to me. You know, it makes me feel good when I see opposing parties, people who have opposing views, present their opposing views, listen to one another, and have a mature conversation about it. So hopefully that's what we'll see in the comment section. Where was I? Number 11? Okay, number 11. If the moon is about 4 times smaller than the sun, as seen from Earth, why doesn't the Earth look 4 times bigger than the moon when seen from the moon? Okay, number 12. How does the ISS survive the extreme heat of the thermosphere? Now, I want you to keep in mind, all of these questions, these are things that I have researched. So I have an idea. I have my own idea. I'm just curious to see what sort of patterns I see develop in your ideas, honestly. And also, as a side note, whenever I've seen flat earthers interviewed in much of the mainstream, they're bombarded with all of these types of questions that require research for your common person. You know, I wouldn't expect anybody out there to go, oh, I know the answer to that. It's simply because of this. I know that. That one's too. That one's easy. That one's easy. A lot of this is going to require some Googling on your part. And that's okay. I'm good with that. I like seeing people research the stuff that they believe in. I don't like seeing people just blindly believe in anything, right? Regardless of what you believe in or are leaning towards. Number 13. How is it that we were able to get past low Earth orbit during the first few moon missions, but now we can't? How is that? Number 14. When creating crepuscular rays are what you see when the sunbeams go through the clouds and they shoot out in all of those various directions, right? When creating crepuscular rays, should a spherical atmosphere act as a concave or a convex lens? Let me know. Number 15. What evidence is there for the existence of gravity aside from things falling to the earth? I mean, where's the hardcore, right? Where's the evidence? Just wondering what you've come across, you know? And, you know, I would really respect and appreciate answers that come from the heart, not answers that come from people doing a quick Google search and just copying and pasting what Wikipedia says. Just answer honestly, you know? If you don't know, if you've never performed experiments, if you don't know, you know, what other proofs there are aside from stuff falling down, just be honest. Just be like, I don't know, but, you know, I'm convinced. And I respect that, you know? But it's the kind of less respectable when a person just Googles real quick and they say, here's what Wikipedia says. You know, I know what Wikipedia says. Many of us know what it all says. We have researched these things. I want to know what you think, individuals. Where was I? 16. Number 16. Do you trust your government or any world power 100%? Fully. No doubts. That's my question. Number 17. Why is the light of the moon colder than the shade of the moon? I'm curious to know what you think. Number 18. In a world that wars over land and resources at the drop of a hat, is it really likely that all nations in the UN have agreed to keep the Antarctic Treaty for some greater good? I'm just looking for an honest answer with that one. Number 19. Various legends from around the world tell the story of the sun and moon stopping in the sky, giving extended daylight or night. How do you explain this scientifically? Number 20. What experiments have you done to prove to yourself that the world is a spinning, tilting, wobbling, oblate spheroid flying through unknown regions of a vacuum called space? What have you done? What experiments have you performed? I'm just curious. I'm not saying people out there have not done them. I'm just wondering, what experiments have you done? I've heard about all the famous people's experiments. I've heard about the sticks in Egypt, Aristophanes, you know. I just want to know what people today are doing, you know. And my bonus question, question number 21, a pressurized system must have a physical container to separate what is inside from what is outside. Kind of like a can of soda. The Earth is a pressurized system. What is the container keeping it pressurized? Those are my honest questions for all of the globular community. And I don't say globular as, you know, any type of degradation or insult or anything. That's what it is. It's globular, you know. It's globe-ish. It's spheroid-ish. And this is by the academic community, you know. So I say globular. That's what it is. The glob. It's a glob of Earth, you know. Even the shape within the community is the scientific community is totally debated, you know. Some people would just say it's a ball, it's a sphere, it's an oblate sphere, it's a pear shape, you know. So I'm just going to call it globular because it just means a glob, whatever shape that may be. Globish, right? Wow, dude, I've been talking for over an hour. That's insane. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the chat and I'm going to open it up for questions. If you have a question for me, please keep in mind, I am not Mr. Wizard. I am not God. I don't have all of the answers, but I will, you know, try to answer some questions. If you have a question for me, type in and spell correctly JayDreamerZ in the chat room right now. Ask your questions. We'll hang out for a little bit longer. While you guys come up with some questions, I just want to say thank you to Holy Kool-Aid and all of the other channels doing their debunking stuff. You guys are actually helping the flat earth research because a lot of people have never even heard of this until they came across your video. So thank you for being a part of it, encouraging other people to look into it, to prove it, disprove it, or do their own research. Because that's ultimately what's happening, you know. Yes, there are people that are just going to watch it and go, oh, okay, that's exactly what I thought because that's what they told me in school. Yeah, there's going to be people like that, but there's also going to be people who are going to watch all of your debunking videos and they're going to go, I'm going to look this up. I'm going to check this out. I'm going to do my own research and I'm going to come to my own conclusion. That's called a freed mind, right? A free mind. I'm going to get to the questions in just a second. Actually, no, I won't. Let's go ahead and answer questions. Tim Truth, JayDreamerZ, how did the moon come into existence? The moon was created. This is my own personal theory on it, right? But I believe that the moon is a construct, that it was created, that it was constructed, that it is the sun and the moon both, okay? That they were made by beings that preceded us, okay? Known as gods and titans. That's the short answer. Jessica Lynn says, JayDreamerZ, you're very smart, and I look up to you and trust you 100%. I appreciate that, Jessica, but don't trust me 100%, you know? I know what you mean, but don't trust anybody 100%, you know? Always leave room for a little bit of healthy doubt, you know? Especially if you're doing your own research on things. Tommy Lee, did you include in your counter questions, could you show practically water conforming to the exterior of shapes yourself? No, I didn't, because that one's been asked a billion times. I'm sure they've heard it before. These were just my own questions. Starliner, hey Starliner, I'm going to give you a shout out here in a bit, says, JayDreamerZ, a lot of hidden truth in movies. Favorite movie with hidden truth? My favorite movie with hidden truth, off the top of my head, probably The Matrix, is, you know, there's so many. Dark City is a really good one. Avatar, I can't really pick a favorite right now. I'm on the spot, sorry. Those are the first ones I thought of. Dave Mack says, JayDreamerZ, the Dogon tribe says it was towed into place. And Dave is talking about the moon, right? That the moon is, it's so interesting. When you do the research on where the moon comes from and you look into the other stories, aside from the Caucasian white people's, you know, scientific perspective, I love listening and learning from all of the different tribal peoples from around the world. And I can say around the world because you can go around the flat surface, okay? Pardon me. Anyhow, yeah, the Dogon, many people have talked about it being a hollowed out egg, and basically a spaceship. Conspiracy Mystic. JayDreamerZ, question. If the world is flat, how many cheese crackers does it take to make cinnamon toast on a Sunday morning? If you don't know, it's obvious. I don't even know what the rest of that was. I'm sorry, the question flew off. I love you. That's my answer. Let's see. Any other questions? Candy Jones says, JayDreamerZ, have you read the book Worlds Beyond the Poles? If not, I'll send you the PDF. Thanks, Candy. Yes, I have actually read the book. I want to be honest, I have not read all of the book. I probably read about half of it because honestly, I kind of felt like it got really redundant. It became redundant after about 50 pages. The first 50 pages are incredible and come up with all kinds of really interesting theories and stories, and there's even some pictures in there and stuff. But after that, it goes over the same thing over and over. I probably should read the other half of it, but I have not yet. Let's see. Belinda Brubaker says, JayDreamerZ, always thought-provoking. Thank you. Okay. Oh, Timothy. Timothy says, Jay, are you still planning to go to the North Pole? Yes, absolutely. That is something I will do. I'm doing other things. So for those of you who don't know, I was actually I was headstrong, ready to go, South Pole, North Pole. Basically, I was like, I don't care what happens. Maybe I'll be risking my life, but I want to find the truth. And that's how much, that's a truth seeker. That's somebody that's got the heart of a truth seeker, somebody that puts the truth above and beyond their own life, Jesus is a perfect example of a truth seeker. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to go to the North Pole first, then, depending on what happens with that, to the South Pole. That's not going to come. I'm not even going to look into that anymore until after I'm done writing my book. Once my book is done, we'll see how that goes. Then, then I'll look at going to the poles. But yes, absolutely, I'm going to go to the poles relatively soon, before I get too old where I can't make the journey. If anything, I would love to just go ahead and die. I would love to just go out on those trips, If I have to wait until I'm 50 years old to do that, I don't really want to grow old in this body, okay? These bodies suck, okay? I don't know if you noticed, but these bodies are horrible. They don't last very long, and the older you get, the worse they are. So that's why I try to keep in shape and treat this body as best as I can. But anyhow, Shell Ice. Hey, what's up, Shell? Says, JayDreamerZ, what are your thoughts on how a full moon has effects on people and animals? Oh man, I really need to do another video about the moon. I did do a video about the moon. It's called Arcadian Sky, I think. But please check that out. I talk about the moon a lot. In a nutshell, I believe that the moon is not only a light, but it is a selfish light. And what I mean by that is it's taking energy instead of giving energy. And I believe that the moon is a construct that is mostly responsible for the seriousness of our forgetting. That we forget all of the time, almost everything that we come across. I mean, we are just constantly forgetting everything. And forgetting our dreams is one of the biggest. Anyhow, so I believe that the moon is basically a machine. It's a light. It's its own light. And I think it's very, very much a culprit in taking, okay? Especially taking our memories and things like that. Cairo says, JayDreamerZ, do you think Bigfoot is real? I believe there is an element of truth in everything. So I believe that there is truth to the stories and accounts that people have seen and experienced with the creature that they call Bigfoot. In the same way that I believe elves are real, but I don't think that elves are what we have, what they have been portrayed as, if that makes sense to you. So yes. Why is a raven like a writing desk, Jessica? I have no idea. So that's why I asked that question. Love. Oh, okay. So the chat's going a little quicker. We're going to do 5 more questions, and then we're going to wrap things up because the chat's going too quick. Then I'm going to do some shout-outs as well. Where was I? Ah, see? That's why it's hard to be in the chat these days. Love Blanquita says, I want to tag along with you to the polls. Okay. We'll talk about it when the time comes. I plan on having a crew, just like Jason and the Argonauts, where everybody has their own area of expertise. Candy Jones says, have you looked into the Black Royalty? Yes, I have. And that's actually something that I'm currently researching. It's one of those touchy subjects that I have to be careful on how I word it because of algorithms and whatnot, right? But yes, I'm going to be doing a video on what I call the Dark Elves, and also known as the Svartalfs. The Svartalfs. And I will be looking into that and sharing my research with everybody as well. Let's see, what else? Dave Mack says, JayDreamerZ, the moon is a control command center. Are there any more questions? Oh, what about, Zetter says, what about the hidden continents at the North Pole? Yes, there is hidden land. There's land at the North Pole. It was on all of our maps until a certain point in time. So yes, the North Pole has land. It's not all water. It's not all, you know, ice cubes floating around in a big drink. There's land there, and there's interesting stuff to be found, I believe. Starliner asks, do you think it's bad to get moonlight on us while we sleep? I've never thought about it. I don't know, honestly. I'm not a huge fan of the moon or the sun. I don't like either of their light. And that's me. And that's not a popular opinion, I know. But no, I'm not a huge fan of either one, okay? And that stems from my research on their origins and their purpose for even being here and what our sky used to look like, you know? That's what we're taught. We're taught in mainstream science in schools that the Earth and the sun and the moon have just always been here, you know? They've just always been around. And they're almost seen as sort of like holy or magical. Like people worship the sun, literally. I don't, you know. I understand that they have not always been around and that there were other lights in the sky. Children of Yeshua just subscribed. Welcome. And let's see, we'll do one more question. Dmitry Martinov says, JayDreamerZ, thank you for answering those 20 questions. I hope you saw me try to explain in comments, and thank you for making live. Respect, your big fan, Dmitry. Dmitry, you are very welcome. And I like your name. Dmitry is a cool name. Let me see. Oh, you know what? I'm going to answer another one. Yellow-Eyed Canine says, JayDreamerZ, do you feel it's dangerous to tell children the world is flat when it still hits hot buttons with Globers? Yes, there is truth to that. There is an element of danger. When it comes to this 1984 Orwellian dystopian present day that we have, there are a lot of things that are dangerous. Maybe not physically dangerous, but there are a lot of repercussions that are impressed upon the general population so as to make examples out of some and to create fear in everybody else. So yes, however, people like myself don't care. People like myself are becoming more emboldened every day, more courageous every day to speak the truth regardless of whatever the outcomes are. Now, personally, I'm a huge believer in that the truth wins over all, okay? I believe that all of our system, our corruption, our governments, the well-oiled machine that we live in is going to come crashing down one day. I can't wait. I look forward to it. And I will be there cheering it on when it happens. But yes, a lot of these things come with, we need trailblazers, basically. You know, and that's another thing. You know, when it comes to flat Earth, one of my complaints is that that's all I hear when I love going to all of the Flat Earth live hangouts and discussions and watching all the Flat Earth videos. However, it's so monotonous and routine. You know, there's just this, it's just the same, you know, the Earth is flat, here's why. The Earth is flat, here's why. You've been lied to, here's why. I know all of this. I'm convinced. I see all of the evidence. So I'm looking for those people who say, good, what are we going to do about it? Because it's so much more than just the shape of the Earth, right? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the shape of the Earth. We're talking about our enslavement. We're talking about shackles being put on us, blinds being put on us, and we smile and say, thank you, sir, may I have another? I don't want to do that anymore. I'm looking for alternatives. I'm looking for those individuals who are going to come up with the solutions. The solution in my book is not spreading the knowledge. That's just religion. That's what all the religions want to do. You know, they want to go knock on your door. Excuse me, sir. Would you like to hear about the flat earth today? And, you know, about your salvation from slavery, from a world government? I don't want to be that. I don't want to be an evangelist. I don't want to be a door knocker. I'm on my path to freedom. I realize I'm not truly free right now. And so I'm going to take my realization and the knowledge, I'm going to research it, and I'm going to figure out what needs to be done to get my freedom back, to get your freedom back as well. So, if you're that type of person, I probably would be more interested in talking with you than I would your average flat earther that just wants to, you know, go in circles. The earth is flat. The earth is flat. The earth is flat. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. I'm convinced. I need a channel out there where we talk about what's going to happen about it. What are we going to do about it, you know? Because just saying the earth is flat's getting you nowhere, you know? If you lived in a prison and you were told and convinced that the prison was the entire world, and then one day you came across some evidence and you did your own research and you realized, wow, I live in a prison. There's more to this. Well, there's more important questions. There's more important things to look into at that point, don't you think? You know? Yes, maybe you'll run around telling all of the other prisoners, hey, did you know we live in a prison? Did you know we're actually prisoners and that we're being kept in here? Let's just say you were successful. Let's say all of the prisoners jumped on board and they were like, wow, that guy's right. We do live in a prison and we are prisoners. Well, there's really only two things to do once that happens. One is you come to terms with it. You know, you're institutionalized. You say, you know what? That's right. We do live in a prison, and it's a damn good prison. And I like this prison. And I'm going to continue doing my prisoner life in my prison, and I'm thankful that I have this prison. I can appreciate that type of a response. That's fine. That's a person's prerogative. But then there's the other response which says, oh my gosh, I'm a prisoner? I'm being kept here, like, without the freedom to do what I want to do and to go elsewhere? Guess what? I want to go elsewhere. I don't want to be here anymore. Well, what happens when you say you don't want to be here anymore? What happens when you say, I want to venture out? I want to explore. Well, you know you are in a prison that has guards that are there to prevent those of you who realize it. You see where I'm going with this? Anyway. Sorry. I'm losing my voice. Before I wrap things up, I do want to give some shout outs. First, I'm going to shout myself out. I'm going to be releasing a new video later this week. I'm proud of it. I spent a lot of time editing it, which is crazy. A lot of the shorter videos that I do require the most time because they're edited. But I'm going to be putting that out later this week. The preview is already up and running on Patreon. So all of my patrons, you know, well, not all of them, $10 or more patrons get access to the free previews, so you can check that out if you're one of my patrons. Speaking of patrons, I want to say thank you to so many of you. I wanted to say thank you to the Super Chat users in the last video, especially Starliner and M and T. I can't tell you, I'm just a regular average kind of person, you know, and I quit my job to be a truth seeker and to share my path with everyone full time and to write my book. So all of your support immensely helps. It does not make it possible for me to do what I do, but it makes it so much easier and honestly is a little inspiring at the same time. So I definitely want to thank all of my supporters. The Super Chat users, Starliner, M&T, Shane. Thank you, Shane, for your support. Jessica as well, and as always. Leanne, thank you. Jody, thank you. And Rulaine. Leanne, you are one of my patrons where I'm going to give you a phone call so that we can chat and stuff. Just let me know when's a good time, and we can Skype or we can, you know, I can give you a call, whatever. So yes, Rulaine as well, who also just contributed. Thank you, Rulaine. I sincerely appreciate all of your support. Now, if you're out there watching this portion of the video and you're thinking to yourself, man, you know, I don't donate money to this channel or to Patreon or anything. Like, doesn't he appreciate what I do? Yes, I absolutely do. I appreciate that there are people out there that find value in what I share so that I can continue to share it. Because if people didn't find value in it, I would probably just keep all of these things to myself. So I appreciate all of the people out there who have sent me information, sent me links with descriptions, so that I can watch other videos that are related to the things that I'm researching. I want to thank everybody who has supported me by just telling others about my channel and the different theories and ideas that I have. You know, I saw even one guy was on Bro Sanchez's channel, and he was like, "You need to check out JayDreamerZ. Have you checked out JayDreamerZ?" It's kind of humbling, you know. It's kind of humbling because I'm not a superstar, I'm not a celebrity, I'm not a rock star or any of that. I'm just a guy with a sincere passion for finding things out. I'm a sponge for knowledge, and I love sharing my experience and research and feelings and ideas and theories with all of you. I appreciate that you took time out of your day to watch. I really like all of you who share with each other in the chat. That inspires me. When I see all of this wonderful chat going on and people are inspiring and encouraging. Age of Disclosure, also want to give a good shout out to you. Good channel. Zane. Oh yeah, Zane leaves the best comments, hands down. Lane, I love Zane's comments. Last but not least, this Friday, no, I'm sorry, I have changed the live stream times. Instead of Fridays, it's going to be every other Thursday, due to what's happening here in my personal life. But I'll be doing live streams on Thursdays every other week. This Thursday, we'll be talking about the Mandela effect. Ooh, right? I've been researching, I've been processing the Mandela effect for over 2 years, longer than I have the flat earth theory. And I wanted to take my time before I really did a sincere video about it. But we're going to try to hit a home run with the Mandela effect on Thursday. It's a very mysterious topic. I've heard a lot of theories. I've heard a lot of stuff. And I've got my own thoughts about it. And I'll be sharing those with you guys this Thursday, approximately around... you're welcome, Zane. Around, I don't know, 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Anyhow, let me see. Is there anything else? Anything else? I can never remember. It's so hard to say goodbye. But we must go. I'm going to be doing some videos. Check out my Patreon channel. Check out the Patreon page. Even if you're, you don't want to or you can't, support what I do. That's totally fine. But check it out because I spent a lot of time setting it up and I think it's cool. So take a look at that. If you want to support, you can start off with $1, see how you feel about it. You can stop showing support at any time. You guys are why my channel has come so far. And I'm being totally transparent, okay? I wouldn't have all the interesting special effects or, I wouldn't have... My video used to look so choppy. If you go look up some of my very first videos, you can barely even see me because I'm so blurry and the connection's bad and everything. So I love my patrons. I really do. And I get to know them all as much as I can, as often as I can, on a more personal level. So thank all of you. I really do. I'm going to go. I love you all. I think you're all amazing. Keep searching for the truth. And I'll see you guys at least on Thursday. Unless, of course, some random thing happens and I feel like doing a spontaneous live stream. So I'll see you guys later. Have a great rest of your week. And goodbye, I guess. Bye.